My parents thought they could secretly give my $90,000 inheritance to my brother Ethan without me ever finding out. They were wrong. And I decided to expose their dirty little secret at the one time of year everyone's supposed to be thankful: Thanksgiving dinner. They'd spent my whole life grooming me to be the responsible one, the one who never needed help, while they enabled my brother's every single failure. But their ultimate betrayal wasn't just about the money, it was about the years of lies that came with it. And it all started to unravel when I saw a notification for a group chat on my mom's phone, a chat called The Inner Circle. I knew in my gut, with that cold, sinking feeling you get, that my life was about to change forever. And I decided that if my world was going to be turned upside down, I was taking theirs with me. Here's exactly how I did it. But before we get into it, I have to ask, what would you do if you found out your family had a secret group chat without you? The kind where they made life-altering decisions about your life without you. So, to give you some background, my family has always had a two-tier system. Tier 1 was for my older brother, Ethan. Tier 2 was for me. We lived in a quiet suburb of Seattle, in a house where the rules were apparently written in invisible ink, and only I was expected to read them. My parents, Harold and Marjorie, weren't obviously cruel people. They were worse. They practiced this quiet, soul-crushing favoritism that they tried to pass off as being practical. Ethan was the golden child, the dreamer, the creative, the one with vision. Ever since we were kids, his potential was talked about in these hushed, reverent tones. My potential? That was measured by my GPA and my ability to not cause trouble. When Ethan was 8, he wanted a brand new 10-speed bike. He got it, cherry red and gleaming. 2 years later, when I turned 8, I got my cousin's old bike, a pink hand-me-down with rusty handlebars. When I pointed this out, my mom just gave me that placid, dismissive smile and said, "But it has character, Lena, and you're so practical, you don't need something flashy." That was the theme of my childhood. Ethan scrapes his knee playing soccer? Family emergency. We're talking antiseptic wipes, cartoon Band-Aids, and a trip for ice cream to soothe the trauma. I fall out of a tree and break my arm. My dad, Harold, sighs and looks at his watch, annoyed that the trip to the ER would make him late for his golf game. I just sat in the back seat, clutching my arm, trying not to cry because I felt like a huge inconvenience. It only got worse as we got older. In high school, Ethan's C's and D's were proof of his misunderstood brilliance. My dad would ruffle his hair and say, "The school system just doesn't know how to handle a mind like his." Meanwhile, my A-minuses were met with a concerned frown. "What happened here, Lena? Why not an A? You have to work hard, you know. You're the responsible one." And I internalized it. I became the responsible one. I got scholarships, went to a good state university, and got a degree in accounting. I built a career, managed my money perfectly, and never asked my parents for a dime. I was their stable, reliable daughter, the one they could brag about to their friends when it came to accomplishments, but never when it came to affection. Ethan, on the other hand, was a serial entrepreneur, my parents' romantic phrase for being chronically unemployed and terrible with money. His 20s were a graveyard of failed business ideas, each one more ridiculous than the last. There was the drop shipping company for dog-themed clothes, which ended when he, forgot to actually ship any products. Then there was his disastrous week as a day trader, where he lost the $5,000 my parents gave him in less than 7 days. His latest venture was the most absurd yet, a line of artisanal, small-batch pickles. He called it Ethan's Elite Eats. He'd spent months and a ton of our parents' money developing flavors like lavender-infused dill. Frankly, they tasted like regret. Still, my parents talked about it like he was the next Jeff Bezos. "Ethan has such a passion for it," my mom would say, her eyes gleaming. "You have to support the dream." The dream was always his. My reality was just paying my taxes on time. The inheritance was always this distant thing. Our grandmother, my mom's mom, passed away about 5 years ago. She was a stern but fair woman who saw the family dynamic with crystal clarity. In her will, she left $180,000 in a trust to be split evenly between me and Ethan. The rules were simple. On our 30th birthday, we'd each get our $90,000 share. Ethan, being 2 years older, turned 30 a couple of years ago. I figured he got his money, and knowing him, had probably burned through it. My own 30th was about 6 months away, and my parents always spoke of my share with this smug assurance. "It's safe and sound, Lena," my dad would say, patting my shoulder, "growing nicely. When the time comes, it'll be a nice little nest egg for you. Because you're so responsible, you'll know just what to do with it." And I believed them. I had no reason not to. That money was a promise, not just of financial security, but of one final act of fairness from my grandmother. It felt like the one thing that couldn't be tainted by my parents' favoritism. It was mine. I had plans for it, too. A down payment on a condo in Seattle, a chance to finally own a piece of my city. It was the finish line I'd been working towards my whole adult life. I just had no idea that in my parents' eyes, my finish line was just another starting block for my brother. And that's how I found out. It wasn't some dramatic confession. It happened on a Tuesday on my mother's beige sofa with the house smelling like potpourri. I'd stopped by after work to help my mom figure out why her new tablet wouldn't connect to the printer, a classic Lena task, being the family's unpaid IT support. I was on the couch tapping at the screen while she was in the kitchen getting me a glass of iced tea as a thank you. Her phone was face up on the coffee table next to me, unlocked. I didn't think anything of it until it buzzed. I glanced down just out of reflex, and there it was, a notification from my dad. But it wasn't the message itself that made my blood run cold. It was the name of the group chat, The Inner Circle. The words just hung there in the quiet room. The Inner Circle. It was so brazen, so cliquey, so them. It was the unspoken truth of my entire life, finally given a name. For a second, I just stared at it. Then I read the message preview for my dad. "Don't worry, Ethan. The final transfer went through. Lena doesn't suspect a thing." My breath caught in my chest. The air felt thick, heavy. I felt a wave of nausea so intense I thought I was going to be sick right there on my mother's pristine rug. My hand flew to my mouth. Suspect what? What transfer? My heart was pounding. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't look. But I also knew, with a terrifying certainty, that my entire life was balanced on this one moment. Not looking wasn't an option anymore. My hand was shaking as I reached out and picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the notification. It felt like the point of no return. I tapped it. The group chat opened. Just 3 people, Mom, Dad, and Ethan. The Inner Circle. I started scrolling up, frantic. My eyes scanned months of messages, a secret history of my own family playing out right there. It was all there. Everything. Keep the tone of every part same. Messages mocking my thriftiness, with my mom sending a picture of the sensible shoes I'd worn to dinner with the caption, "Lena's fashion statement, LOL." Ethan replied with a laughing emoji. Conversations about my job. My dad had written, "At least her boring accounting job means she's stable. She doesn't need much excitement." And then I found it. The conversations about the money. My money. I scrolled back almost a year. A message from Ethan. "The pickle business needs a real cash injection to get off the ground. The last bit you guys gave me is gone." Mom's reply. "We'll figure it out, sweetie. Your dream is too important." Then from my father, "What about Lena's trust? It's just sitting there. She won't even be 30 for another year. She doesn't need it right now. She's so good with her money, she probably wouldn't even miss it." I had to read that 3 times. She probably wouldn't even miss it. The casual cruelty just sucked the air out of my lungs. They were talking about my future, my security, as if it were a spare cushion on the sofa they could just toss to Ethan. The plan unfolded over dozens of messages. They talked about how to get the trust to pay out early. They talked to a lawyer, their lawyer, who told them it was possible since my parents were the trustees. They debated how to hide it from me. "We'll just tell her the market took a downturn and the fund is worth less than we thought," my dad suggested. "Good idea," Ethan replied. "She'll believe it. She trusts you." That was the line that broke me. She trusts you. And I did, despite a lifetime of evidence telling me not to, despite 1,000 little cuts. A part of me still trusted them, and they used that trust as a weapon against me. Then I saw the final damning proof. Attached to a message from my mom from 2 weeks ago was a PDF file. The message said, "It's done, all sent to Ethan's business account. So proud of you, honey. Now go make some pickles." With a trembling finger, I opened the file. It was a bank statement from the trust account. The account name was Eleanor Vance Trust for Lena and Ethan, my grandmother's name, and there it was in black and white. A wire transfer. Date, 2 weeks ago. Amount, $90,341.27. Transferred to Ethan's Elite Eats, LLC. They had emptied it. Every last cent. They took my inheritance and handed it to my brother to fund his ridiculous pickle fantasy. A strange calm washed over me. The shaking stopped, the nausea was gone, replaced by something cold and hard and sharp. It was the calm of a building after it has already burned to the ground. There was nothing left to save. There was only wreckage. I heard my mother's footsteps. "All fixed?" she asked, cheerfully, holding the iced tea. I quickly closed the chat, locked her phone, and put it exactly where it was. I looked up at her smiling, oblivious face, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a huge, empty space. This woman was a stranger. "Yeah, Mom," I said, my voice eerily steady. "All fixed. The printer's connected." I drove home in a complete daze. The cold, hard thing in my chest wasn't just anger yet. It was grief. I was mourning the family I thought I had. But as I walked into my quiet, empty apartment, the one I paid for with my boring job, the grief started to burn away, leaving behind pure, high-octane rage. My first instinct was to call them, to scream, to cry. But what would that accomplish? They'd deny it, they'd gaslight me, my mom would cry and say I was misunderstanding, my dad would get angry and call me dramatic, Ethan would play the victim. They'd close ranks, the inner circle would lock its gates, and I'd be on the outside, looking like the crazy one. No, they played their game in the shadows. I was going to drag it into the light. My practical, methodical accountant's brain, the one they made fun of, kicked into gear. Emotion was a liability. I needed evidence. I needed a plan, and I needed the perfect stage. I picked up my phone and sent a casual text to my mom. "Hey, my phone is acting up. Can you send me that picture of Grandma from your trip to the coast? The one from a few years back. I want to get it framed." I knew she wouldn't know how to send just one photo and would probably send a link to her entire cloud album. A minute later, a link appeared. "I think this is it, honey," she texted. Bingo. I clicked it, and there was her entire photo library, and right there, a folder of automatically backed up screenshots, including every single one I had taken from her phone an hour earlier. I downloaded everything. The entire transcript of The Inner Circle was now on my hard drive. Checkmate. Next, I focused on Ethan's Elite Eats. As a business owner, he had to have a public footprint. I spent the next few nights digging. I used my accounting skills to navigate public records. I found his LLC filings. Then I started calling his suppliers, pretending to be a potential investor. It was shocking how easy it was to get people to talk. It wasn't a story of a booming pickle empire. It was a story of bounced checks, unpaid invoices, and a guy who was long on promises and short on cash. An artisanal salt supplier told me Ethan still owed him $5,000. A glass jar distributor had sent his account to collections. He wasn't building a business. He was running a Ponzi scheme with my inheritance. I gathered every email, every invoice, every piece of proof I could find. As the evidence piled up, the plan crystallized. Where was the one place my parents cared most about their public image, but one time of year they paraded their perfect family for everyone to see? Thanksgiving. It was perfect. The whole extended family would be there, aunts, uncles, cousins who only ever saw the curated version of our lives, the people my parents performed for. Thanksgiving was their stage, and this year I was rewriting the play. I started putting together what I called my presentation, a simple but devastating PowerPoint. I didn't need drama. The facts were dramatic enough. The title slide, A Family's Secret. Simple, ominous. The next slide was just a screenshot of the group chat name, The Inner Circle. Then the messages. I gave each of the most damning quotes its own slide in a huge, clear font. She probably wouldn't even miss it. We'll just tell her the market took a downturn. She trusts you. Ethan's dream is more important. Now go make some pickles. After the messages, I inserted the bank statement, a full-page slide showing the $90,000 transfer from my grandmother's trust to Ethan's company. The numbers were undeniable. Then came the slides on Ethan's elite eats, the unpaid invoices, the summary of his debts, the proof that my inheritance wasn't an investment, it was a bailout. For the final slide, I used the photo I'd asked my mom for, the picture of my grandmother smiling. Beneath it, I typed a quote from one of her last letters to me. Family should be a safe harbor, Lena, not a place where you have to fight for your place. I bought a portable projector and a small screen online. The week before Thanksgiving, I called my mom, my voice light and cheerful. Hey, Mom, I had a fun idea for Thanksgiving. I was thinking of doing a little family memory slideshow with old pictures as a surprise. Would that be okay? She was ecstatic. Oh, Lena, that is the sweetest idea you have ever had. Everyone will love it. You are so thoughtful. Great, I said, a grim smile on my face. It'll be a surprise. No one will see it coming. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait. The days leading up to Thanksgiving were surreal. I spoke to my parents, who were cheerful and oblivious, completely unaware that I was about to bring their world crashing down. The calm I felt was absolute. This wasn't just revenge for the money. It was justice for a lifetime of being second best. Thanksgiving Day arrived, crisp and cold. When I got to my parents' house, the scene was a carbon copy of every other year. The air smelled of turkey and stuffing. My dad was holding court in the living room, whiskey in hand, laughing loudly with my uncles. My mom was a whirlwind of performative hosting stress in the kitchen. And there was Ethan, by the fireplace, looking smug and telling my cousin about the exponential growth of his pickle business. A perfect, curated illusion of family bliss. I played my part. I smiled, I hugged my aunts, I complimented the table settings, I even gave Ethan a civil nod. He shot me a condescending little smirk, the look of a guy who thinks he's gotten away with it all. To them, I was just Lena, reliable, quiet, predictable Lena. I was a Trojan horse in the middle of their party, and they had no idea. Dinner was an exercise in self-control. I sat there listening to the cheerful chatter and the endless praise for Ethan's courage as an entrepreneur. It takes real guts to start your own business, my Uncle Robert said, clapping Ethan on the back. My dad beamed. He gets it from me. You have to take big risks to get big rewards. He looked at me and added with a wink, and then you have your accountants like Lena to count it all up for you. A few people laughed. I just smiled tightly and took a sip of water. My rage was a low, controlled burn. Just a little longer. Finally, after the main course was cleared and before dessert came out, I stood up, tapping my glass with a fork. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, my voice carrying through the room. "If I could have your attention for just a moment." The chatter died down. All eyes turned to me. My mother's face was a mask of pure delight. "Oh, this is it," she whispered to my aunt. "This is Lena's surprise." "As some of you know," I began, my voice even and calm, "I wanted to do something a little special this year, a tribute to our family." I walked over to my bag and pulled out the small projector and screen. My dad chuckled. "Look at you, Lena, all high-tech." "Just wanted to make sure everyone could see," I said as I set it up. My parents were beaming, thinking I was about to play a slideshow of cute childhood photos that would make them look like Parents of the Year. I dimmed the lights. The room fell silent. I clicked the first slide. The projector whirred, and the words appeared on the screen. "A family's secret." A confused murmur went through the room. My mother's smile twitched. My father leaned forward, squinting. I've always felt like there was a circle in this family, a circle of trust that, for some reason, I was never a part of. I used to think I was imagining it. Turns out I was right. I clicked to the next slide. A massive screenshot filled the screen. It's called the inner circle. I watched my mother's hand fly to her mouth. I saw her grab my father's arm. Ethan's smug expression just dissolved into pale horror. Then I started clicking through the messages, reading them aloud, my voice a cold narrator of their betrayal. "She probably wouldn't even miss it," I read, as my father's words appeared on screen. My Aunt Carol shot a look of pure shock at my dad. "It will just tell her the market took a downturn," I continued. The room was dead silent. "She trusts you." I let that one hang in the air. I looked right at my parents. "And I did," I said, my voice cracking just for a second with real pain. "I did trust you." "They believed my brother's dream was more important than my future," I went on, my voice hardening. "More important than the inheritance our grandmother left for me." I clicked to the next slide. The bank statement, the full $90,341.27 transfer circled in red. A collective gasp went through the room. It was undeniable proof. They didn't just give him his inheritance, they gave him mine too. And where did that $90,000 go? I clicked again. The slides showing Ethan's mountain of debt, the unpaid invoices, the angry emails filled the screen. No, it went to patch the holes in another one of his sinking ships. It went to paying off old debts from his last failure, all while they lied to my face. The room was electric. My relatives were staring, open-mouthed, not at the screen, but at Harold, Marjorie, and Ethan, the holy trinity of the inner circle, exposed and vulnerable. For my final slide, I put up the picture of my grandmother. I read her words. "Family should be a safe harbor, Lena, not a place where you have to fight for your place." I turned off the projector and turned on the lights. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. And then chaos erupted. My Aunt Carol was first. "Marjorie, how could you?" she said, her voice trembling with fury. My uncle just stared at my father in disgust. "Harold, that was your daughter's money, from her grandmother." Ethan was stammering. You don't understand." But his voice was drowned out as everyone started talking at once. My parents said nothing. They were just frozen, their faces ashen. Marjorie's eyes filled with tears, not of remorse, but of pure humiliation. Her perfect Thanksgiving was shattered. Harold just stared at the blank screen, a fallen king in his own home. They had been so confident in their secret, so sure of my ignorance. They never saw it coming. I didn't stay for the show. I had done what I came to do. While the arguments exploded around them, I calmly packed up my laptop and projector. I zipped my bag, walked to the front door, and grabbed my coat. My mother looked up, her face streaked with tears, her expression one of utter betrayal, as if I was the one who had wronged her. "Lena," she whispered. I looked at her, at my father, at my brother, and I felt nothing. Just a profound, final emptiness. The ties that had bound me to them for 30 years were gone. "I think I'll be skipping dessert," I said. "I've lost my appetite." And with that, I walked out the door, closing it softly on the ruins of my family. The drive home was quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free. The weight of their expectations, their favoritism, their conditional love, it was just gone. Within an hour, my phone started blowing up. First, my extended family. My Aunt Carol called, apologizing for not seeing it more clearly over the years. My cousins sent texts offering support, some even saying, "We always knew something was off with how they treated you." Then came the messages from the inner circle. The first was a long, rambling text from Ethan, accusing me of being jealous of his creative spirit. I deleted it without finishing. Next was a voicemail from my father. Not an apology, a tirade. His voice, thick with whiskey and rage, bellowed that I had humiliated him and destroyed the family. He said I had no idea the damage I'd caused. For once, he was right. I had damaged his reputation, and I didn't feel a shred of guilt. The last message was a simple text from my mother, 5 words that summed up everything. "How could you do this to us?" Us. It was always us, never me. I stared at the message, and then I did something I should have done years ago. I blocked her number. Then my father's, then Ethan's. I cut the cord. A few days later, a cousin posted a vague message on Instagram about family secrets and the truth always coming out at the holidays. It was liked by several other family members. My parents' perfect image was cracking publicly. Their friends started asking questions. The secret they wanted to keep was now the one thing everyone was talking about. It's been 6 months since that Thanksgiving. The silence from my parents and brother has been absolute, and honestly, it's been the most peaceful 6 months of my life. I didn't just walk away, though. I took one final step. I hired a lawyer. I sent them a formal letter of demand for the full $90,341.27 plus interest, citing the trust documents and the mountain of evidence I have. My lawyer says they probably don't have the money, that it's long gone down the drain of Ethan's failures. But it was never just about getting the money back. It was about creating a legal and final line in the sand. My official declaration of independence. I'm no longer in contact with that side of the family. The holidays were quiet, spent with my Aunt Carol and the cousins who reached out. It was smaller, simpler, and more genuine than any Thanksgiving I ever had in my parents' house. And I'm thriving. I got a promotion at work, I'm saving like crazy, and you know what? I'm going to get that down payment for my condo on my own. It'll take longer, but it will be mine, earned by me, for me. The freedom from their judgment is intoxicating. I no longer feel the need to twist myself into a shape they might finally approve of. I approve of myself, and it turns out that's the only approval I ever really needed. Looking back, the betrayal was a strange, painful gift. It hurt more than I can even say, but it also set me free. I haven't gotten my inheritance back, and I'm not sure if I ever will, but I got something far more valuable. I got my life back, I got my self-respect back, and I got the quiet, satisfying knowledge that every single Thanksgiving for the rest of their lives, they're going to sit at that table and remember the day their quiet, overlooked daughter finally held them accountable. I don't owe them forgiveness. I owe myself this peace. This whole situation was a complete nightmare, but exposing the truth was the only way I could move forward.